Hi, I'm the Naked Fairy, and I am recording from my new work area. Still working out the wrinkles in the backdrop and some territorial disputes with the cats. But my family has very graciously let me take over part of the living room, exchanging a love seat that we really didn't use for a desk, and taking over two shelves that are supporting the backdrop, and behind it we'll have a place for everything that I've been acquiring as I work and as I start to work on the non-naked videos, and got one in the editing process now. So, things have gotten done, and I've been taking care of myself, but I haven't been recording because I've been a bit of a mess, and while I'm willing to be emotionally naked with you, I'm not willing to emotionally vomit on you. You don't really need that, and I don't need to do it. But the situation with my previous therapist kind of left me really upset, and I get that part of it is it triggered some mom things, but it triggered some other things that I'm sure I will be talking over with my new therapist. I see him this coming weekend. Ironically, the thing that originally brought me to therapy, I kind of got a handle on that really quickly. Something the therapist said kind of rang a bell, and I worked through it and shared it with you guys. But just feeling really unsettled. When I told the therapist I wanted to terminate the relationship, he seemed genuinely surprised. And he asked, could we get together and talk? And if maybe I might think it was a good thing to do that with my new therapist, so I'd have someone on my side. And then he decided that was actually a good idea. My family has told me I should have nothing more to do with them, but there's part of me that would like to talk to him. And with the therapist is good because it's always good to have, again, that third-party outsider perspective. And I decided that rather than continuing to rant in my head, I should write down some of the things that specifically bothered me that he did. I've shared some with you, but there are more. It wasn't all bad. Again, something he said gave me the impetus to figure out what was going on initially. Also, he gave me a suggestion about ways to meet people and find people with common interest, and I've taken him up on that suggestion, and already have a gathering that my husband and I are going to be going to next month to see a movie with people of similar interest, and we'll see how that goes. And I have talked it over with my family, and I'm not quite sure how it's going to work out, but I'd like to start some sort of a women's gaming group during the week here at my house. I love to play games, but I do know that the gaming environment, whether it is video games or tabletop games or role-playing games, tend to be very hostile toward females, regardless of age, and just don't want to deal with that. That's not a battle that I want to fight right now. The battles I'm fighting, I'm going to fight here with you. So I'm going to leave that to other people. But I very much remember the first time I took my daughter to a Pokemon tournament, the Pokemon playing cards. And she was like the only girl there. I have hundreds and hundreds of boys. And it didn't faze her a bit, which I'm glad of. But all the parents were pretty astonished. I don't know why. Pokemons are adorable. Of course they're going to attract girls. And girls like to fight battles too, and girls like to slay monsters. But, from a very early age, my daughter learned that gaming, regardless of the type of games you play, it's dominated by the male gender, particularly in this country. I don't know what it's like in other areas, but in this country it is a male-dominated and hostile toward women. So gonna do that. But I've kind of been stuck with what happened to my therapist, and so I do want to talk to him because I'd like to be able to confront someone who I feel did me a disservice. And we don't often get to do that, and I've had too many times in my life when I felt like I got stuck with situations I didn't want because the ability to resolve them was out of my control. So I think that I definitely do want to confront him, but that'll be something that I talk about with my new therapist. But it really put me out of sorts. And there was a part of me that blamed myself, not for what he did, but that I didn't stop it sooner. But as my family reminded me, as soon as I really did recognize that he was repeating some patterns, it wasn't just that he would say something once, he would kind of harp on it, as if I was expected to immediately agree with his perspective. And I realized that in a therapy relationship there is a lot of the parent-child overlay, but in a therapeutic sense I believe I'm an adult child now, and I'm not looking for a therapist to tell me what my attitude should be or what my life choices should be. I want someone who will help me explore and make the best decision for myself. And some of the things that my therapist talked about were frankly things that I feel are best discussed with other professionals and not my therapist. Not that it's something I'm going to keep hidden from my therapist, but his opinion is not, really doesn't have a lot of weight in certain areas, particularly my physical health. So I kind of struggled with that. And I wish I could articulate to you better why it bothered me so much, but it did. But one of the things that did bother me opened up an area of thought for me. I shared with you how my jewelry selection was very reflective of where I'm at emotionally, and realizing that it isn't being the naked fairy that has really triggered my anxiety. It's really a decision to be open politically. And I've already done one semi-political video, and I'm currently writing a few more. That fills me with anxiety, and I'm not sure why. I've always kept my political views and my religious views very close to the vest. That isn't to say that I never discussed them. I did. We've had some quite lively political discussions in my family. I have been part of church groups that had very frank and open discussions of theology and religion and the Bible. But to strangers, to people I don't really know, I've tended to keep my mouth shut. And to friends, just didn't want to rock the boat. And I still don't know how to deal with some of the things, and I think that's part of it. I've mentioned on my Facebook before, and I'm not very active on Facebook. I browse it from time to time, but mainly Facebook is just, I use it when I play games. It's how I connect with people on games. And I've learned things on Facebook about people I didn't want to know. I've learned that a lot of people my age they've just let themselves get old. There's no whimsy in them. There's no just doing things because it's fun. Everything has to have a purpose. And not seeing that enjoyment and fun and sharing is its own purpose. I've learned that people that I liked, that the subject never came up, I learned that they're bigots, that they're racist. And part of my keeping politically silent has been not wanting to rock the boat. and it makes me nervous to speak out. To not just speak out on YouTube, but then to go onto Facebook and go, dude, this is who I am. And who I am doesn't like racism, and I need to speak up about that. And who I am does not like sexism. As a woman, as the mother of daughters. I don't understand why we live in a country that still finds it anathema to elect a woman. And the fact is that, look, trauma happens to a lot of people, but crimes of physical and sexual assault, crime of rape, happens predominantly to women. It's not to take away what happens to men, but it does happen mostly to women. And we do recognize that sexual assault and rape are not motivated by sex. That is their cover story and their guise. And part of our blame the victim mentality is often centered around the sexuality of the victim. But as we've said before, if you've been the victim of rape or sexual assault, regardless of your gender, regardless of what you were wearing, or where you were, or what you were doing, it's not you, it's on them. Sexual assault, sexual violence, discrimination, racism, all of it. Well, there's just too much ugliness out there. You know, I remember early on when I first started getting active in social causes, an aunt saying to me, "You can't change the world." And my answer was no, but I can change my corner of it. I can't change the racism that has been part of my family for generations, but I could make sure I didn't pass that racism on to my children. I can't stop the sexism that existed. Even my mother, who worked full-time, really believes that there's women's work and there's men's work. And she justified her own working because it's what the family needed. But a lot of sexism in my family too. And again, I can't change what happened before, but I could raise my daughter to know that she was as good as anybody else, and that what she accomplished was about what she accomplished, not her gender, and not her appearance, and not her race. There is too much ugliness in the world, and I can't undo it. But you know, the people that have changed the world, they weren't perfect people. And they didn't start out to change the world. They started out in their corner of it. And it's time to start talking from my corner, not just about this issue. I've talked about this issue in various ways throughout my life since my 20s. This is just a new venue for me, a much more personal, and in some ways a much more authentic venue. But it's a new venue. It's an old subject in a new setting. But it's time to speak out about the things that really bother me about our world. And it's time to talk politics, because politics are how change happens. And that's what makes me nervous. It makes me nervous. It's letting people in a little more. It's a new level of nakedness. See, I haven't even told you my politics. Sure, I've talked about what happened to me, and I've talked about my emotions, but I've kept that part private. And today isn't the day to do it, but I will share. But you've gotten a glimpse of them today. I believe in equality. I believe that the solution to so many of the things that we fight about in our culture is not the law. It's about changing the hearts of people. I don't think the answer to ending abortion is making it illegal. If that was so, when it was illegal, there would have never been an abortion in this country. See, the problem isn't that abortion's legal or illegal. The problem is that we don't value life in this country. We pay it lip service, but we don't value life. If we did, we wouldn't have people that think that the homeless are there because they don't work hard enough, or that they somehow deserve what they got. If we valued life, we wouldn't think twice about funding school lunch programs. The minute we found out that a child didn't have enough to eat, as a society, we would not hesitate to feed them if we truly valued life. If we truly valued life, we would not hesitate to make sure that anybody sick has medical care. It's that simple. Overhauling our insurance, overhauling our medical system, overhauling social services, whatever. Those are practical things, and practical things need to be done. But until the culture changes, until our hearts change as a people and as a nation, we're still going to fight about how we do something instead of talking about why we do it. We feed people because no person should ever be hungry. We clothe people because no person should be exposed to the elements. People have shelter because people need shelter. People have medical care because their bodies need to be taken care of. And when people are pregnant, we help them. We show them they're so valued that whatever decision they make, we'll take care of them. Because once you know you're valued, well, then you start to value the things around you. When you feel loved, it's a lot easier to love. It's complicated, I know. But I believe that the root of so much is that we don't truly value and respect life in our society. And for those of us who have been assaulted and abused, well, you know what it feels like. It feels like shit. And it sucks. And it devastates your life. You know this. So yeah, that's my big political view. We need to figure out love and compassion, patience, peace. Peace isn't about how big our military is. It comes from inside of us. And yeah, there are bullies out there, whether it's in your family, in your neighborhood, or in the world. There are bullies that need to be stopped because they're going to hurt people. And you have to figure out how to deal with that. Whether you ignore them, whether you confront them, whether you attempt to isolate them, whether you fight them. That's a big issue. And again, it's something that those of us who have experienced bullies in our family, and if you've been abused, let me tell you, you've experienced a bully. We don't abuse people we see as an equal. We don't rape people who are our equal. We don't assault them. And until we truly value each and every individual, regardless of their color, regardless of their gender, regardless of their sexuality, regardless of their appearance or their education or their intelligence. That is the very foundation, the absolute foundation of building a healthy society, and we don't have that. Look, I'm in a family of geniuses, and sometimes they come home and they're very, very frustrated because they've had to deal with people that just don't see things as quickly as they do, or who can't understand something that seems simple to them. And we all need reminders that people who are different from us, people who frustrate us, are still people. And even if we don't want to interact with them, we still don't objectify them. We still don't turn them into nothing. And maybe that was part of it with my therapist. Maybe I felt like he had this formula and he just wanted to apply it to me like I was out of a cookie cutter. And I don't know about you, but I am not mass-produced. And that's part of it too. We're all unique. We're all individuals. And we all want to be treated like that. Oh yeah. Some of us learned early that we were safer if we faded into the woodwork. But even those of us who have preferred in our lives to stay in the background, we still want to be recognized. Deep down we want to be seen, as scary as that is. We want to be seen, we want to be recognized. So I don't know where you are, but as I'm starting to step out, it's scary. And I feel like working with the therapist was kind of one step forward and one step back. I made progress in some areas, but there was some hurt involved that I have to heal from. But I'm moving forward. I kind of hit the soda habit hard when my big anxiety bubble got hit about 6 weeks ago, and I'm happy to say that I'm back to only the occasional soda and back to my habit of a cup of hot tea or a glass of iced tea, and always lots of water, and taking better care of myself again. So, I'm walking my own baby steps, and I'm going to be putting myself out there more, both to you and to other people. But I hope that my sharing with you does help. I hope it really does help. And I hope that you can learn from what I've been through, and it makes it a little easier for you to know that the journey's hard and there's a lot to be worked on. But it starts with working on ourselves, recognizing where we fit in, recognizing what is and what isn't our fault, and always recognizing that clothing is optional, but consent is not.